Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but you don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. Well, so I have my glasses on today because I'm watching the kids. My wife did an overnight trip, work job, and the kids usually stay asleep, but when my alarm went off, Ethan woke up, and so I've been watching Ethan. Didn't have the chance to, shower. So don't come over here and smell me or anything like that. I like to shower before I put my contacts in. So that's why I got the contacts in, and I might be a little bit not as active on the stream today, but we do have a very, very important number that we got to look at here, which is the PCE. And by the way, yesterday, I don't know why I did this, but yesterday we had that trade on, and I kept it. And we've had another pretty strong move overnight, right? Now we're at 3.86. So rates continue to go higher. Let's come and look at the charts here real quick. You can see a little bit of a drop here when the Asian sessions got started. Do you think that the glasses look distinguished? We can talk about that in a second. ES kind of still rallying here. It's going to be very interesting to see what the end of month flows actually end up being. I suspect, though, or our estimates are still that they will be short. So we'll find out on the close today. Here's oil. Oil, they had that those oil numbers on Wednesday. Since then, it's been pretty volatile. Gold and silver still not looking so hot. Interest rates push higher, and copper may be moderating this morning. Lately, copper has not looked very good. Meanwhile, over here in Bitcoin, we had a little bit of a spike overnight here. Bitcoin's still looking pretty okay. And the dollar looking strong, but on the downturn, at least at the moment. Okay, so we are going to get these PCE numbers here. The US core PCE price index month over month expectation is spot 3. Here comes the number. Oh, come on. I can hear I don't have my headphones on. I can hear the news squawk saying it, but it's not showing up on the thing. See, this is why you pay for the news squawk and put the headphones on. But it looks like we're losing all of our profits on that trade, and it did not work out. So, well, hold on just a second. I guess I'll do it right here. Ah, okay, now I'm getting the number. core PCE was in line with expectations at spot 3. I would say suspiciously in line, but U.S. personal income month over month, spot 4 versus spot 3. Oh yeah, what is with that core PCE price index year over year? 4600004. Well, that is a little weird. Oh, I guess I could have waited. I know. I'm still a little concerned that the end of month flows for the treasuries could be buying, but the sentiment is going to be pretty depressed. Like consider this. They are pricing in 2 more rate increases this year, and we're at like what? 5.25. So let's say we go to 5.75, and then there's another rate increase in January. That puts us at 6. How can interest rates be below 4 for the 10-year? Right? So I think there's plenty of room from a valuation perspective, at least, for the 10-year to run. But for now, they are pushing back up. S&P 500 seems to like it. I guess as long as they're not getting any signs that inflation is going out of control again, the equities are probably going to be pretty happy about it, huh? He's been under the desk playing with a joystick. Oh, you see him? Oh, man. I do think these glasses look pretty okay on me. I got these frames earlier in the year because when I have to wear my glasses, I felt like it didn't cover enough of my vision, so I got ones that were a little bit bigger. I'm not super into glasses, though. In fact, I would really like to get eye surgery, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Well, this activity is all really, really interesting. Like, not in the treasuries, but S&P 500 rallying 15 points. I don't know. The thing is, inflation is not as big of an issue, right? It's kind of more like inflation is definitely moderated, but core inflation is still a little bit higher than we would like. But it's not like a huge disaster or anything. Oh, those are, I'm like, what did he just put around his neck? Oh, it's the sunglasses. I really don't know how he's like moving around. The other one is out cold in the bed. Are you trying to escape? Are you trying to escape with that flight joystick? You know, we went to bed at a decent time and everything, but well, I did wake up once during the night, but I do feel a little sleepy today. Live Squawk. Yellen sees path to cool inflation with healthy job market, reports Bloomberg. What says Joseph Wang retweets Tracy Alloway? I don't know who that is. I'll look them up. Brad Sester arguing that China may have roughly twice the Forex reserves it's been officially reporting. That is interesting. This guy is posting some interesting stuff about PBOC moves, so I will add him to our traders list. Jimmy Eurio just tweeted, if I run for office, do I have to pretend I like NASCAR? If you're a Republican, it would help. I mean, you don't have to, but it would help. Like, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you run for office and you say, I'm a huge F1 fan, F1 is the coolest thing ever. I don't think that helps you. That's a European sport. Guess not. What do I think about Bookmap? It looks like a pretty good platform. I am personally not a fan of Java-based platforms. And I do feel that Jigsaw's DOM is better than Bookmap. You know, the kind of the thing about Bookmap is the features that, you know, kind of make it popular. The Vista chart and everything aren't really things that I'm too interested in. So, but, you know, I'm not going to say it's a bad platform. It's just not my cup of tea. No, PCE came out. PCE is out. It was in line with expectations. So PCE in line with expectations, personal income slightly above expectation. But we are getting a little bit of buying flows. And I think that that's kind of like, okay, number one, there was some risk. Like if PCE was high, that would be really bad for the markets, right? So there's probably some hedges and so forth coming off on that. But we may also be seeing end of month flows. So that's kind of the thing that I'm looking for here now. I think that it's probably going to be a bit of back and forth and it might be a difficult trade. But in the end, I expect the treasuries to rise a little bit and the equities to sell a little bit, particularly when we get into the closing auction at 4 o'clock Eastern time today. Well, he sure is getting decent mileage out of that flight joystick. Look at that. It's just 3 ticks, just like that. Wall Street Journal. American executives are being warned about fresh dangers to doing business in China. U.S. officials say Beijing's revised espionage law is vague and could criminalize normal business activities as spying. Footage out of France. I do recall seeing. Oh, you're talking about. Yes, that's right. You're talking about. There was like a truck driver or something got killed by police. Is that what it was? Yeah, I heard about that yesterday. Yeah, mad riots. Oh, it's been going. It's on for 3 days now. France vowed to examine all options to restore order on Friday after rioters torched buildings and cars and looted stores across the country in a third night of rage sparked by the fatal police shooting of a teenager of North African descent. The 17-year-old's death at a police traffic stop caught on video has ignited long-standing resentment among poor, racially mixed, and urban communities over incidents of police violence and allegations of systemic racism within law enforcement. Oh, geez, that sounds awfully familiar, doesn't it? More than 200 police were injured. Oh, you want up? Yeah. You didn't poop, did you? More than 200 police were injured and 875 people arrested overnight, authorities said, as rioters clashed with officers in towns and cities across France, with buildings as well as buses and other vehicles torched and stores looted. President Macron, who has so far ruled out declaring a state of emergency, arrived in Paris from Brussels after leaving a European Union summit early to attend a second cabinet crisis meeting in 2 days. The government would examine all options for restoring order, Prime Minister Elizabeth Borne said, calling the violence intolerable and inexcusable. Low key, I want to live. No, you don't, lose. No, you don't. You don't want to do that. Crazy. You look like you are focusing really, really hard on what I am saying. Why are you who are you talking to, Dad? Ethan, look. Let me show you. You see right there? Yes, right there. Hi. Hi. See, we're on the internet. So we're talking to the people on the internet. Right here. Hello, hello. Violence, free stuff, no consequences. It's true. Like, there might. You probably do get free stuff. Oh, can you not take apart my keyboard? That would be great. Well, I tell you what, a lot of the stuff that I'm reading out of other countries these days, I mean, a lot of the stuff that's going on in the United States is pretty crazy. But it's like stupid crazy. You know what I mean? It's like, I can't believe that people are that effing stupid, right? But when I read about stuff that's going on in other countries, it's just like outright, the West is just losing it, man. We're over here whining about beer and movies. Yeah. I mean, it's over in the US. I feel like it's still kind of like incremental changes. I don't know, man. So today, yesterday, the Supreme Court struck down affirmative action. And as I had kind of predicted, the left was so upset about it. I was actually a little bit taken back by how upset they were, because I kind of thought that everybody understood that affirmative action is supposed to be a temporary thing, it is not very popular, etc., etc. But no, some liberals were very upset about it. Today, we get the remaining opinions. And I believe one of them is going to be about like, kind of speaks to regulatory authorities' ability to make new rules and so forth. And the other one is going to be about student loan debt. So if they strike down the student loan debt thing, and I really don't know how that's going to go down, that decision is going to be really weird, okay? But yeah, you could see the left like really, really flip out over that one. Okay. But meanwhile, just north across the border, we have our Canadian friends literally turning into a, communist dictatorship. Like, we don't think about it a whole lot because we don't think about Canada that much, but my goodness, you protest against the government policies and you lose your access to the financial system? Like, what? That is so crazy. And everybody across the Western world, like everybody across the G7 is looking at this like, what? That you're not supposed to do that, right? That's the sort of stuff that's going on in Canada, right? So then you go across the seas, the Netherlands, they're literally shutting down all of the privately owned farms. Basically, they're saying they produce too much carbon emissions and we need to shut them all down, buy them out. Who's going to grow the food? Are you people insane? And, the farmers basically took over the government in the next election. So now, like, the EU are passing all of these rules and stuff. Like the individual countries are fighting against it. And so the EU is starting to pass rules that override the countries, essentially. So now the EU is essentially overriding an individual country's sovereignty, which, and the reason why I say it's so crazy is because these are all of the things that when the EU got put together, like, how long has it been? 20 years now, maybe? I remember as a kid reading on, because I've been online since the beginning, right? And I remember people online, all of the conspiracy theory types, saying, all of the crazy things that are going to happen from all this. And we all, well, not we all, but, it was largely dismissed as super crazy scenarios. And now they're all happening and like nobody even blinks. The stuff I'm hearing about over in Europe just blows my mind sometimes. And then on top of that, they're having these other problems are kind of coming to a head, like with France, where they have to increase the retirement age, for instance. Right? So it only gets worse from there. By the way, I should make sure I don't have any of my accounts active here, because he might try and take a trade here again. Well, so I personally, for the EU, I tell you that the thing that's kind of weird is like when I was a teenager, I guess I didn't really think too much about it. I think a lot of it was like, oh, that seems unlikely to happen, and it's so far away. 20 years seemed like so far away, right? Now, but I think that the time where I really shifted personally in my politics much earlier than most people was when Mitt Romney ran for president, right? That whole circus. No, not when Mitt Romney ran for president. When John McCain ran for president. When John McCain ran for president, that was when I realized how utterly messed up and biased the media in our country is. And that's also when I realized that there really are people, they might be a strong minority, they might be a minority of people, but they're a very powerful group of people that really do want to do some pretty scary stuff. And more so than that, it seems to me that some of these oppressive sorts of things are really like people's natural tendency in a group. You know what I mean? Like, when you're in a small group, when you're in your family, for instance, okay, which is really what our brains have evolved to work in, right? These things kind of work, right? If there's something that is kind of inconvenient, then you don't want to talk about it. And, you know, your parents can kind of run an authoritarian rule because it's more important that everybody toes the line and works together. When you get to a group as large as a modern country, though, those sorts of things no longer work because the systems are so complicated that any kind of like edict from on high will always end up being too naive to really work or be effective, right? Because individuals simply lack the ability to understand these systems. This is where one of my ideas, and I'm sure that maybe somebody else has come up with this idea and has good terminology for it, but this is just kind of a line of thinking that I've come up on my own, and I just call it systems for systems, right? That the systems are beyond our human capacity, and so we have to design systems to help maintain those systems. And that's what a republic is, essentially, right? We found out, well, democracy doesn't quite work, so we have to make something that's a republic so that we have controls in there to be able to deal with the situations where, like, the general public kind of wants to do things that are dumb, right? Because I remember in school, you know, people like adults focusing so much on how important it is and why it's important to have free speech. And, you know, like we all assumed that everybody in the United States understood that. And we're always like, well, why do the adults focus on that so much? Well, it's because they know the history. The history is that they try and take away free speech, right? So I guess we understood that and we were kind of vigilant. I think the thing that was surprising to me was how it came about, you know? Like, I guess we expected that there would be challenges to free speech, but I don't think that anybody in like 1999 thought that it would be the far left extremists that would be the ones that were trying to tear down free speech. And, you know, because we kind of at the time we viewed the far left as like the rebels and the rebels that believed in individual freedoms, and they wanted to rebel to show their individual freedoms, you know? Did Alex Jones? Well, I guess I'm talking about a time before Alex Jones was popular. But you know, things under Obama shifted so quickly, didn't they? Okay, I think this kid is probably done. I'm going to go change him. I'll be right back. 90s Alex Jones was quite a bit better than current. Well, yeah. Something that I really hate. Yeah. Did I thought I had it muted and I unmuted it or something back? No. So on Alex Jones, 90s Alex Jones is better than current Alex Jones. Something that really bothers me is that social media really encourages people to go full ham, right? Like anybody that gets remotely popular on the internet, it seems to be because they do and say things that are crazy. And then they basically have to continue to be that in order to continue getting the attention, right? And so everybody that really becomes super popular, it becomes like a parody of themselves, you know? I think he's getting sleepy. Sleepy, baby. Like, that's a boring, Dad. I wish I had stayed in bed. Yeah, you should have stayed in bed, Ethan. But you just had to see what Dad was doing up so early. Oh my, is the S&P going to continue through with this, huh? More comfortable. Yeah, back in the 90s, Jones reported on things like the Bilderberg Group, banking cartels, links to politics, chemicals and food, water, and scientific research that wasn't widely reported on. Yeah. Well, and I mean, the wild thing, I think, with Alex Jones is that he doesn't just pull this stuff out of nowhere, right? Like, he's using unverified information. That unverified information probably came from somebody. It's like telephone, you know? So when I took my parents to the airport like last week, my dad was telling me about the stuff that's been happening on the Skinwalker Ranch TV show, because those guys are like trying to take as a scientific approach to paranormal phenomenon as they can. I'm not saying that they're like super qualified scientists or anything, and I wouldn't take what happens on the show like too seriously, but some pretty interesting stuff going on over there, right? And meanwhile, we have Marco Rubio, right, who's on the Senate Intelligence Committee, telling us that military personnel have been whistleblowing to him about UFO recovery programs that the government has. Yeah, I think the thing of being an entertainer and socially awkward, and the thing you mentioned about social media and needing to maintain momentum online, like if you watch him on any podcast or at a fan event, it's obvious that the guy has difficulty functioning well, no. So there's like, he changed over time though, right? Like, I think that over time, he became increasingly more paranoid, because at first it was just like, okay, there's all these interesting paranormal things that people talk about, and they're probably not true, but like, let's get down to the bottom of it. And then when you start to investigate it, and you're investigating so much as he does, you know, some of them do end up becoming true. And you do end up, you know, coming across pieces of truth that people don't want you to know. And it scares you, right? And I think that Alex Jones has become increasingly paranoid, and he might have like autistic phenotypes that kind of make him dwell on certain thoughts and ideas over and over again. And so it's not like he doesn't have the ability, doesn't have social skills and things like that. Like I'm sure that a large part of how he got so famous initially was because of his good people skills, right? But over time, it's definitely messed with them. When you, that's what it seems like to me. Because I remember when he was just this, what was it? He was like because I can't remember what it was he did before he was the conspiracy theory guy. He had become famous through doing something else, right? He is sleeping. His eyes are closed, at least. Yeah, I mean, so the issue that I have with consuming too much Alex Jones content, though, is, again, when I'm looking at a piece of information, and I want to judge the value of a piece of information, the three key things that I want to see is it's verifiable, it's relevant, and it's rare. So Alex Jones, you get information that is very, very rare, but you don't necessarily get information that is relevant or verifiable, right? And when you go down that rabbit hole, you essentially come into this world where we simply don't have enough information to even begin trying to verify or reject the things that he says. And so the kind of person that consumes a lot of that content basically becomes trained to not verify things, right? So that's where I think there's kind of a problem with it. But at the same time, and I said this at the time, man, if you can just deplatform Alex Jones, then you can deplatform anybody, right? We thought that the internet was a new era of open information. And what we found was that the internet just makes it more clear to us how much information is actually being held from us. But it doesn't actually, you know, the government clamps down on it so hard, and it's not as open as we thought it was. Okay, I think he's asleep. I'm going to go try putting him in his crib, okay? Let's see if I can handle headphones here. That's a little better. Hold on. Use a curiosity fuse. Yeah, but I like it. So, okay, so when I'm on TikTok, for instance, TikTok will try and send you down rabbit holes. Because I think one of the interesting things about TikTok, and I don't know if this is like programmed into it or if this is just kind of how the algorithm has kind of figured things out, is the algorithm will try and push a subject to you, right? It'll be like, okay, they're interested in anime right now, so it will show you a lot of anime content until like you show that you're not interested in it, right? And it knows which things you're interested in, and so it will kind of test you, and then, you know, and because if it just only shows you about one thing, you lose interest. But it's found that if it switches you between different topics, you know, it can keep you engaged. So when you're watching TikTok, if you've been doing it for a long time and you know how the algorithm works, then every time you watch something, you're kind of thinking, well, I might be interested in this one video, but do I want to see other videos from this creator? Do I want to see other videos on this subject? Because I often don't, especially when it comes to news. Oh, that's one of the things that frustrates me the most about TikTok is like, if I said I'm interested, so for instance, if I see a video about a lawyer and that lawyer is talking about the Supreme Court decision yesterday, right? Well, then what happens is I start getting all of these videos talking about the Supreme Court decision, and it's essentially a bunch of different influencers all telling me the same piece of information. Oh, it's so annoying because journalism doesn't exist anymore, right? It's just there's very few primary sources, and it's just people regurgitating the same piece of information. This is something I've struggled with on my own. Like when we're here on the stream and it's like it's brand new and it's relevant or whatever, and we go into it and we can analyze it and everything. But when it's on TikTok, you know, if I'm sharing the details of the news story, then I'm sharing stuff that other people are already sharing, and you're like in a sea of noise. So you don't get too much attention from that. And when you go into your opinions or your analysis of that particular thing, the issue with that one is that people only want to hear stuff that confirms their biases. So the more that you do that, the more you tend to narrow your audience, unless you try and take a, you know, like a skeptic approach to things. But like that, like super limits your audience, right? No, sorry, I screwed that up. If you're sharing your opinions and stuff like that, it tends to narrow your audience, because the people that are actually agree with you on everything is not going to be very many people, right? Unless you turn it into a cult. That's what I was going to say. So unless you turn it into a cult, and that's why so many of the influencer communities out there are straight up cults. Like, especially, it seems to me that the trading community is prone to create what I would call practically cults. You know? Smart Money Concepts Twitter is basically a cult. Is basically a cult, because the only way in the trading world that you can kind of garner that kind of a following is either A, just be milquetoast about everything, or B, create a cult. Right? I think taking things at face value is worse than just being nudged in the direction of Googling and reading stuff. Well, the issue is, I guess the point that we're coming back to is like, what are you training yourself to do, right? So we want to train ourselves to be critical thinkers, but we also don't want to train ourselves to waste a lot of time on irrelevant information or unverifiable information, right? And so the issue is that it's kind of hard to get both, right? If it's relevant and verifiable information, then you're just getting the same details from everybody. And if it's information that is critical thinking, you're not given verification and whether or not it's relevant. They're just pushing you down the rabbit hole of, I don't know what's going on here. There's some conspiracy, or there's something suspicious about it, and that's what's piquing your interest. And I'm saying that consuming a lot of content when that's kind of the thing that's driving your mind, I think very harmful to you, right? Because you're kind of you kind of end up training yourself to not be. It's the same problem that I have with marijuana, right? Like if you consume marijuana, it creates, one of the things that marijuana does is it kind of encourages your brain to make like new connections and stuff. But it does so without relevance. And so that's why when you're on marijuana, you come up with all of these really bizarre ideas, right? And the parts of your brain, they come in and say, oh, well, hold on, that's stupid, right? Become deactivated, right? And so if you go down that rabbit hole too much, you end up training yourself into being somebody that will believe just about anything, you know? Stock Market Live. Okay, so that one, I think I've seen that channel, and I did not get it because it was a chart, and the guy wasn't even talking or doing anything. You just saw a chart on the screen, and I'm like, why are 1,000 people watching this? I don't get it. Like my conclusion when I watched that one was like, oh, so is the problem that I talk? Like if I just didn't show anything on my, I just showed a stock chart, didn't show the DOM because that's too complicated and scary, didn't talk and have opinions because some people might disagree with that and move on, then the stream would be more popular. Kind of, because over the last few months, I've kind of come back to this thing of, it seems to me that the goals of building an effective community of traders that make us all better traders is not compatible with the goal of having a virally successful YouTube channel. And so I've kind of given up on the idea of having a virally successful YouTube channel, essentially. I mean, I always kind of was like, well, I think it might happen, but there's a lot of advantages to us being small and things like that. Now I've kind of come back to, unless I made major changes that I don't think I want to make, it's unlikely that the channel will ever get too popular. And when I say too popular, I mean like hundreds of thousands of subscribers. Not defending, well, but so the reason the reason I'm asking you, Dylan, is to help me understand what it is that people liked about that, or like, I guess, because it's still around. What people like about that stream, because when I went on there, it didn't look like anything was going on. He does talk, so maybe I just came in at a bad time. What do you mean he has a custom newswire? Oh, it seems, well, if they're humble, that's good. That's another thing that drives me crazy. Oh, he programmed. Okay, so he's probably pulling from a bunch of different sources then. Yeah, I tell you, we were talking about this yesterday, but, you know, one of the problems that you get in trading is that you kind of have to have a certain, especially in futures trading, is you kind of have to have a certain amount of capital to even really even begin to do this, right? And so you end up with a lot of people that are already overconfident and like to wealth signal and so forth. And so that kind of creates some challenges in the community, because at the end of the day, what we're doing in trading is really kind of like the bottom of the hierarchy, right? The floor in terms of the hierarchy in the financial world, okay? There's like floor traders, and then below floor traders there's the back office, right? That's the hierarchy as I think of it. And the floor trader, you know, the back office is still kind of like a white collar thing. The floor traders, they weren't walking around on the floor being all hoity-toity and posh and stuff. Like, it was rough and tumble. They were working class people, you know? And a lot of people don't understand that about the culture, and, you know, come into trading and run into a wall because of that. Way too much people trying to sell you their strategy. Yeah, well, and my whole thing is that a pattern, the market is statistically efficient, so patterns do not work very well. If you find a pattern on your own and you don't size up too much and it's really reliable, then go for it. But if somebody else is sharing a pattern to you, you can pretty much guarantee that it's useless. Right? I am learning that. Yeah. That's, everybody does it at some point, right? Even me, knowing from the very beginning that was the case, still went through many periods where I tried taking these patterns that I had found that seemed successful. And, you know, went through the whole process of trying to trade them and then deciding that it wasn't a very effective way to trade, right? And I basically kind of went back and forth on that until COVID before I finally said no. Like I know that it's possible that they exist, but they really aren't worth my time. They really aren't worth my time. And every minute that I spend trying to search in the dirt for something that maybe doesn't even exist anymore is time that I've wasted, where I could have learned useful things about the market that can actually make me money, you know, informational inefficiencies. And once I started becoming obsessed with news and reading all of the news reports and just really focusing on that and only trading when I thought I had good information that would predict the orders, then I started doing well. And the last 3 years have been different from the first 3, for sure. It used to be that I would string together a month maybe of doing well, and then I would screw up badly enough where I'd have a bad streak enough that I basically would have to shift. Like, if I was trading a combine, I felt like I couldn't trade the combine anymore. If I was trading a live account, it was like, I'm going to have to wait to refund my live account, right? And when I shifted, I also sized down a lot. And but since doing that, and I went through an experimentation period. I still want to do the experimentation period, but I really need to truly find something and do more research, and not, so I was like doing experimentation with like spread trades and stuff like that. And so there was a couple of spread trades that I had lost money on. But once I kind of got rid of that and just focused on the things that had been working, which I would say since it's been almost a year now since I started that account, it's just been pretty consistently effective. You love my channel? Well, thank you very much. I find making VODs, like your regular YouTube video, where like my talking head videos, it's hard. Making those videos is hard. And especially in the beginning, I was kind of like, why am I making these videos? And when I made my order flow videos, because that was really at the point where I was like, okay, I think I'm good enough at these videos. I can kind of make this stuff, and I should make this stuff because this is what what I really can offer people. I made those videos and I put them out, and at first they didn't do that great. But now, like my first one, my Dom for Beginners one, that's got over 20,000 views or something like that. And it did eventually take off. So it was worth it, but it's really hard sometimes. It's because you really have to push forward and keep doing something without getting any real feedback, And anytime that somebody comes into the stream and praises my YouTube channel, that really helps you to know that, okay, I am on the right track. There is a group of people that do appreciate this. They might not be the loudest, they might not comment the most, but the audience is there and you are having an impact. So, and I wish I could make more content with, the circumstances as of late have been making it difficult. I don't know. Because one of it is the kids. So I should be able to record tomorrow. Because my wife doesn't work tonight. So I should be able to wake up early tomorrow and record a video. But I've also been spending a lot of time doing woodworking stuff. And I really want to continue doing that. So I've got to figure out a way to kind of keep the balance. I guess I'd been doing the woodworking and the yard work and stuff, and the yard work should die down now at this point. So starting a group, and your channel is the top reference. That's good. So we have the futures trading Discord, and there has been at least 3 that I can think of, 3 offshoots of the Discord where the people like met on the Discord, and they decided that they wanted to go off and just be their small group that have been quite successful. So I really think that's kind of the way to do it. Is you get a small group of people that you really trust and that you can stand being on, like on voice chat with, so you can kind of discuss together and make a couple of like group decisions sometimes. And we kind of do that here on the stream, but it's a little bit different because as the person that's streaming, you have a much greater impact on the group, so it's a different sort of a thing. I would like to maybe someday open it up a little bit, but I'm not sure how to do that, so we just kind of continue. I think where we may be going, is is like the People's Hedge Fund. Oh, he woke back up again. Guess I better go get him. Hold on. What? You want this? You're wrong. You need to do a live with no talking in a giant Bitcoin USD chart. Yeah, that one. You know, that was another thing. Sometimes I wonder if I don't like the attention in reality. I like the small group, and I like having a group of people that I know and recognize and can talk to every day. Because really, like I have such a remarkably consistent live stream audience, right? Most channels don't have the benefit of having the same dozen guys or so come in every day for 6 years now at this point, right? Oh yeah, you got into the settings menu. That's cool. But you know, one of the things that kind of jump-started the channel was the cryptocurrency stuff. And the problem with that one is that I'm not really a fan of cryptocurrency. I don't think it's a positive thing for the world. And you know, if I had just jumped on it's the greatest thing ever, and it just, again, it's like it's a cult. And if I was the kind of person that could convince myself to just buy full-heartedly into the cult just for the sake of the money, you know, probably would have a pretty big channel by now. Because now one of the things that frustrates me is that I feel like I understand the Bitcoin market itself and what's going on over there a lot better than most people do. But ultimately, what I understand about it kind of says most of the things that people are trying to do in cryptocurrency, you shouldn't do, you know? and so if I bought full-heartedly into that, I could create a lot of content that would engage people and that they would find useful and stuff. But it's just that I really don't want to invest in it. Oh, thank you, Dylan. Good thing you hedged your spy puts. Well, I'm a little bit surprised at how much. I mean, 25 points isn't that big of a deal, but this is a little bit more than I was expecting today. And again, I'm still kind of expecting selling into the close, but it kind of looks like it's going to be like equities do well all day, maybe, and then they sell into the close. Also, I'm a little surprised now by the treasuries, because at first it was kind of just like the initial news was kind of, okay, it's in line. It doesn't look like it affects it too much. Then we rose by quite a bit, which I'm I wasn't expecting, I don't think it was related to the news, but I thought, well, maybe if that's like end of month flows or something like that. But now it's also moved up big and then completely retraced. So I'm not sure I can really explain that one. Carnival cart, is that stock still a thing? Dude, let's look that up. I find that one particularly odd. After the, it's, yeah. I remember like shortly after the pandemic and all of these people were buying into airlines. And I was like, yeah, I don't think you want to be in those. Right? But they all YOLO'd into them and they all thought they were amazing for catching it because, they made money on it. But like in the end, they didn't, right? If they held on, in the end, they didn't make money. Oh, you're right. They're up over $1 today. Carnival is. Oh, what's going on? Do we have more news today and I forgot about? Oh, yes, we have. We just had Chicago PMI. You got it at my sub 15 levels? That's pretty good. Oh, wow, actually. I mean, it would have been better if you had got it at like sub 13. Yeah, I forgot about Chicago PMI. So I take it that the Chicago PMI number was a little weak again. So remember last time that they were expecting like 45 and they got the 40, right? So, hey, like I said, I'm learning. Well, that's... See the way that I function and what's going on? PMI, Lucas. I love how Lucas, he'll always, it's like when there's a move that he's like, wasn't expecting, then he'll come in and was like, what's going on? No, remember it's PMI gets released early. What's go with the glasses? So my wife is working. So she's a flight attendant, and so sometimes she'll do like overnight flights. At least right now, that's what they are. I think she should try and change her schedule, but right now it's overnights. So she worked from like 9 o'clock last night, and she's supposed to come back basically when the stream ends. So, and that worked out okay last week because both of my kids basically slept through the whole thing, right? But today, when my phone alarm went off, he woke up too. So I wasn't able to shower or any of those things. And I put like eye drops in for my allergies and stuff when I'm in the shower. So I don't like to put my contacts in unless I've showered first, because otherwise my eyes just water all day. So that's why I'm wearing the glasses. That was probably more detail about that than I needed to go into, but hey. So here's a question, Ethan. Why don't you give me the baby monitor, and I will give you the fidget cube. There you go. Yep, I use contacts. I should really get eye surgery. I don't know. So one of the things that I like to do. Oh, okay. So hold on a second. Chicago PMI was 41.5 versus an expected 43.8. Man, manufacturing is just so weak still, huh? Anyways, one of the things that I do to deal with my ADHD, because ultimately ADHD is a chemical deficiency essentially, right? And the way that it affects me the most is in the motivation factors now. Because the medications handle like focus and like management really well. So like when I know what I need to do and I have the motivation, I can just boom, 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 and I can get so much done. I find it frustrating at my day job often because I feel like, okay, I did this thing and now I'm waiting for somebody else to verify it. I did this thing and now I'm waiting. And so it's like it can only go so far because not everybody works as fast, you know? So I find that a little frustrating. But what will happen is I'll go through a period where I get a ton of stuff done. And then I'll kind of get those things done, and maybe I need to go into a new thing, or I don't know, like, so for instance, this week, I have that data that I can do the volume profile stuff off of. And I did find some breaks during the day job where I could have done some of that, but I just couldn't find the motivation to do it. And it's the weirdest thing because, you know, normal person would just think, well, yeah, but you just do it. But it's like you can't for some reason. I don't know how to explain it if you haven't dealt with it. Right. So essentially, I do things. There are certain things that I can kind of do to kind of get myself back the motivation. Essentially, right. So you can do an activity that will kind of help generate that dopamine, and it also has to do with having the right diet and stuff like that. And then you can redirect it into the project that you need to do, right? Oh dear. You want to be on the floor for a little bit? You can play with the flight joystick. So anyways, one of the things that I will do to kind of get the chemicals going is shop, essentially. This is how I'd put it. I'd be like, okay, I would like to have X thing. So like last night, I would like to have a wristwatch. I mean, I've had cheap watches in my life, and then like usually I forget about them or leave them or something. But I'm in a point where I should be able to like just get a watch and use that, and I can get a nice one. So what would I get, right? And so the idea is just go through, do all of the research, find the best one, because that generates dopamine, is like the anticipation of the reward and like looking for things, and then not actually buy it, essentially, right? So I'll make lots of plans, have lots of things like that. So like I have a long list of things that I could potentially get that I want, or I want to mess around with, right? And that I've researched but I never got. And then when I have some success, or I feel like it's time to reward myself, then maybe I'll get one of them. So you don't want to get all of them all at once, because then you have nothing to look forward to. So you kind of have to pace yourself and use it as a reward, is what I do. But I've kind of come to a point in my life now where when I make plans like that, I can do them, you know, like any one of them I could do. I couldn't do all of them, but any one individual one I could do. And so now you have the big issue of, okay, but what actually would be the most valuable and desirable, right? Well, so one of the things that I want is eye surgery. So, should I prioritize eye surgery? Maybe I should. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so did you gain any insight into yesterday's crazy? Well, of course, yeah. So yesterday, GDP was supposed to be 1.4%, and that was like the third like final GDP number, right? So like that's the third time that it gets revised. So normally it doesn't change too much, and it went from 1.4 to 2%, which is a really huge jump. Okay, so that was a very surprising change in GDP. By the way, that is just the latest in a long slew of data that has surprised, right? Remember, what was the one last week? Was that housing number, wasn't it? That housing number that was like a 6 sigma beat or something like that. Like something screwy is going on in the data, and I'm the longer this goes on, the harder I find it to believe that it's not people with at the government agencies with a bias, So, yeah. Now, when that news initially came out, I thought, oh, okay, this is probably going to cause a big move. But like the spread was like $10 and I didn't want to jump on board it. And then when the spread came in, I was like, well, there might be steep pullbacks and stuff. I got to be careful. And it just kept going. And I think that I did not realize the significance of the number the way I should. Yeah, data massagers, exactly. Yeah, but yesterday, I just don't think I was on. I don't think I was very well prepared, and so I kind of missed that one. Unfortunately. But it's okay. I'm still of the mode right now where I have been doing really well. But I don't really want to push things right now. I've got a lot going on right now, and I got to kind of got to pace myself and not overextend myself. And an easy way to overextend myself is to start getting really aggressive in trading and get stressed out and then blow it, right? So... today you have 49. I forgot about that. That was so weird. Oh, no. Not today with electrical cords, please. The sunglasses. I'm a little frustrated. He only slept for like 15 minutes, right? It's also, I don't like wearing headphones with these glasses, so. I don't think the glasses look as good on stream, mostly because I'm not always looking at the camera. When I'm looking down here, I think I look kind of weird with glasses. I look like suspicious or something. No. Why are you all of a sudden... I don't look. No, I mean, when I say suspicious, I mean that I am suspicious of something. That's what. Because my eyes are like down here, right? Carnival was 175 and most other cruise lines recovered most of their losses. Yeah, well, so here's the question. And I mean, do you notice there's kind of a theme here, right? Because it keeps coming back to the same question, which is, how do you determine where to direct your attention, right? With stocks, I think that you kind of, part of it is you want to have some sort of a valuation method that allows you to go through and value a very large number of stocks in order to zero in on which ones are going to be the most effective, right? But, the last thing that I want to do right now is go on a cruise ship. like after the pandemic, the last thing I want to do is get on a cruise ship. Right? I'm concerned that the cruise ships will be damaged for quite some time. So when in 2020 in particular, when everybody was getting into airlines and cruise ships, it was kind of like, oh. So I tell you what, that reminds me. Have you seen this story going around that basically they're kind of starting to see this in the EU, and that some people in the airline industry are concerned that the what do we want? What are we going to call it? The global warming doomsday cult is going to come for airline travel, and that basically it's going to be, if you're a regular person, you won't be able to fly anymore, and it will only be rich people that can fly. That's, I don't know if it actually happens, but I think that there is a real reason to be concerned there, because airlines do produce a lot of global emissions. What did I say about GDP? As why the treasury sold off so hard yesterday? I really think so. So I should add, one of the big flows that I'm looking at right now is the end of month flows for today. And then you got the 4th of July weekend. I don't know how active the markets are going to be Wednesday through Friday, but you do get non-farms on Friday, right? After that, it should open the treasuries up to take another push lower. Is what I'm thinking. Like if I were to take a position at the close of today and try and hold it for the whole month, I think the trade would be short 10-year. Short 10-year at the close of the day. Maybe I should track that. Maybe I should keep an eye on that. Oh, what's this about Bitcoin? Oof. Okay. So Bitcoin seeing a sell-off here. It's not too huge, but it is below 30K. Oh man, is that really what it is? SEC, the spot Bitcoin ETF filings are inadequate. The Wall Street Journal citing sources. Oh, did I call that one or what? Did I call that one or what? Let's see here. Oh yeah, I think you got something good here, Mr. M. JP Morgan pivot robust U.S. growth and labor data Thursday has prompted JP Morgan to ditch its bullish view on treasuries. The bank's strategists are unwinding their long position in 5-year notes, saying they can no longer justify their long duration view. Treasuries have outperformed their underlying drivers and valuations remain rich, the strategist said. Investor positioning is long. Investor positioning is long, indicating there could be risks of long liquidation in the coming days. The sell-off in treasuries extended Friday. Yes. And like I said, like the risk parity fund thing is likely to be sell equities, buy treasuries. Then you've got a holiday because like markets are going to be open on Monday, but like who really wants to actively trade and take big positions on that? I guess it's possible, but right. Monday, then you got the holiday, then you got Wednesday, Thursday, and then on Friday you've got non-farms, right? So, and non-farms can be a big wild card in there. Non-farms could be really look really good again, in which case treasuries will probably sell even more. But then after that, the week after that, yeah, like from the 10th onward, I think that you go short treasuries. I'm gonna be here looking for shorts. I think it will continue to sell into the next rate announcement. Yeah. Well, so from a fundamental perspective, and just remember that orders are what moves markets, not fundamentals. But from a fundamental perspective, if they're going, we're at 5.25 right now, right? If they raise interest rates 2 more times this year, that's going to put us at 2.75 or 5.75. And then let's say that they do one in January, or maybe they do 3 this year, right? We're at 6%. So how could you have the federal funds rate at 6% and the 10-year treasury below 4%? That just doesn't make sense, right? That just doesn't make sense. So I wouldn't surprise me. Is this really the case? Because this is very much the same sort of situation that we were in the beginning of 2021, right? Where everything that we had suggested that the federal, including what the Federal Reserve was saying, said that interest rates were gonna move higher in a substantial way, and the market wasn't pricing it in at all, and they had to catch up. And so that second quarter of 2021, rates declined very strongly. We could be looking at a similar setup. It will take time. Yeah, well, it's definitely something that's probably going to happen over a month or two. For sure. For sure. And I don't know if it, so like when I say all of that, it kind of sounds like, oh, well, then the real trade here is to go short treasuries and try and hold it for the next year, right? But I think the problem with that one is that I think what you're going to see is interest rates rise quite substantially. But I also think that they will kind of run into the limits of that, and that recession will come on really quickly. And thus you see the interest rates reverse very quickly. Now, when the interest rates reverse very quickly, I think that they're going to go back to I think that they'll go back to 3% in the 10-year rather than 0. Are you eating your foot? Well, I must say, a lot more movement in the treasuries today than I really expected, because I kind of thought, well, we're not getting a whole lot in the way of news, but it moved up and back down quite excessively for a Friday. For a Friday, that's quite a move. But now, after the Chicago PMI and everything, they do appear to have settled and are rotating around 04. U.S. economy is still too strong, not as Wall Street expected, which is calling off the recession. Yeah, so that is definitely the narrative that we've seen this week, right? But I have two counters to that sentiment. Number one is that when the recession comes, it will probably come on quickly. At least from what I'm seeing right now, I think it will come on quickly. I think that there's a pretty good possibility that it's accompanied by some sort of larger financial catastrophe, like a collapse in the commercial banking industry or something like that, right? So when interest rates are too high and it really does impact business and so on and so forth, and causes us to go into recession, it may happen very quickly and the market may have to reprice it very quickly, right? The number two caveat that I would have to that is that I don't think we should take the data that we're getting at face value, right? Because the numbers continue to be suspiciously good, right? Every time that they're good, like they're really good, it's like they're too good, and it's like a huge beat to expectations. Like the amount of surprise in the economic numbers is just insane, right? And then there are these ones where like, oh, here's a number that could really hurt the markets, and it always ends up being just exactly what it needs to be to keep the markets happy. Not all banks. Oh, really? I thought that most of them were fine. Well, anyways. So, I don't know if we should be suspicious of the data or what, but at the very least, we don't have a very good handle on what's going on. There's more uncertainty in this market than ever. And so, I'm a little suspicious of anybody that feels super confident that we are or aren't going to go into a recession, right? I'm leaning still towards that we do go into a recession, although I am starting to wonder if maybe it's later than we expect again. How high can interest rates really get? It does seem money from the treasuries is going to equities. Yeah, actually, that's a good point that or are you just talking about today? Because the equities have just not backed off today. So this child. I was going to say more broadly, raising interest rates should take money out of the equity markets and put them into the treasury markets, generally speaking, right? And that doesn't seem to be what's happening, is it? It's just people are just fleeing the treasuries by the droves, and the money goes into cash, and then it goes from cash right back into the equities at the first sign of anything that they could possibly use as a well, you know what I think part of it is? Stock buybacks, all of these other things, like the game is basically rigged in favor of equities going up, right? That's what that's about. Choked on my water there a little. That just makes me think about how we really should get rid of stock buybacks. But do you think that they'll ever do it? I don't know. Oh, now Farage is being systemically unbanked. What? That's crazy. Apple market cap tops 3 trillion. Really? Do you remember when Apple first crossed 1 trillion? That doesn't seem like that was that long ago. France builds a new military hospital in preparation for war. Oh, you know what? We should be checking SCOTUS blog here. Heading to work. Hey, thank you for stopping by, Dylan. And thanks for subscribing. Okay. Oh, okay. So we are getting that stuff. So the first one, 13 minutes ago, the Supreme Court holds that the First Amendment bars Colorado from forcing a website designer to create expressive designs speaking messages with which the designer disagrees. There you go. Colorado seeks to force an individual to speak in ways that align with its views but defy her conscience about a matter of major significance. From the Sotomayor dissent, the court, for the first time in its history, grants a business open to the public a constitutional right to refuse to serve members of a protected class. Nah, you know, like this one I think is kind of interesting because ever since this first came up, it's basically been like conservative business after conservative business is constantly harassed and, you know, forced to do things that they don't want to do. And I think that part of this is the Supreme Court is just sick of these cases coming up, right? More from the Gorsuch opinion, a ruling for the state would create an untenable choice for Smith if she wishes to speak. She must either speak as the state demands or face sanctions for expressing her own beliefs, sanctions that may include compulsory participation in remedial training, filing periodic compliance reports, and paying monetary fines. Oh, maybe I don't have a call. Oh, I'm not following them correctly. Okay. Let's do that. I think they're making the right decision there, but I don't think the left is going to be very happy. You want up? Did you poop again? It smells. My goodness, again. He wasn't done. I'm going to go change him, all right? Man, it sure looks like the dollar is getting creamed. You miss him? I did. Well, yesterday I did, rather. Today, you know, even if I didn't have this child to watch, I would hope that I had not taken a trade because I'm not sure I can really make sense of this movement. I'm not sure if there is any sense to be made of it. You know, of course, there was some economic news, but I don't think that's what's driving these flows. I think the thing that's going to drive the flows from here is end of month rebalancing and stuff. And the action that we're getting right now is saying that at least during our time frame, that those flows are going to be a little bit choppy and difficult to follow, right? Oh, wait, so... when I'm looking at the SCOTUS blog thing, that's not on Twitter? It does look like they are not on Twitter anymore. Because they're mad that they have to pay for verification. Okay. I knew it was end of month, but I didn't connect that. Oh, yeah. Well, because those risk parity, well, not only is it end of month, but it's end of quarter. So the end of quarter rebalancing that we're supposed to get is apparently like the 15th largest we've ever had. So it's pretty substantial. That does not necessarily predict very well whether today will be an up day or a down day. but I'd be willing to put money that the closing auction today will be a sell imbalance. There will be a sell imbalance for the market on close orders. Do you hear that? That is the mama. Do you hear the garage? His mom's home. You know what that means? Look at me. Ethan, look. Mommy's home. Mommy's home. There we go. So I was waiting to get some sort of a reaction from him. So on this one, does it automatically update or do I need to refresh the page? Apparently I don't need to refresh the page. But you just with that, I do think that they are going to do something about the student loan debt thing. But all of the other decisions, it really feels to me like the Supreme Court has been fixing all of the things that I've had a problem with from a legal standpoint in the United States since I was in high school. Liberals are going to be so upset. They're really, this whole thing about like they want to expand the Supreme Court and all of that. They'll do it if they can. If they got a majority in the House and Senate and the presidency, they would 100% do it. Because this destroys their agenda so much. Not necessarily trying to be super political. Maybe I should start a politics show like Tim Cast, but I think this is going to have pretty major cultural implications over the next few years, these Supreme Court decisions that we've seen released this week. Okay, she is like, sometimes she'll do this thing where like she'll get home and then she just wants to talk or text people in the car. So we're going to go go make sure she's coming in. No, let's get super political. Why? Reading from her dissent, Sotomayor asked, who will not claim that they don't have an expressive service? Most services are not expressive. That is so you know what's something that's been interesting about these Supreme Court decisions and everything is, like, especially the one yesterday, was Roberts, who by the way, remember, Roberts is the one that is kind of like, he's the lead of the court and has kind of been a little bit more milk toast and has crossed over and joined the liberal justices in many cases. But yesterday on the affirmative action one, he wrote the opinion, and he really hammered the oh man. Sorry, I think that we just got the other one. Anyways, he just totally eviscerated the dissent's arguments, like in a way that I have not seen in a Supreme Court decision. It was really interesting. Okay, sorry. So the thing that just came through, the first student loan case, there's two of them. First student loan case, Department of Education versus Brown, coming from Alito, a unanimous decision. They have no standing. Which one was this? Because there was two, and I don't know if the other one is more likely to have standing. Number one, whether two student loan borrowers have Article 3 standing to challenge the Department of Education's student loan debt relief plan, and two, whether the department's plan is statutorily authorized and was adopted in a procedurally proper manner. Okay, so if that one was two student loan borrowers, that is the one that is kind of like they're not going to have standing. Oh boy. We have the second student loan case. The chief is the author. The court holds that Missouri, at the very least, has standing. The vote is 6-3. Kagan dissents, joined by Sotomayor and Jackson. I think that means that Joe Biden's student debt relief program has been struck down. I think that's what that means. Dude, get ready for the salts. The court agrees with the states that the HEROES Act does not authorize the debt forgiveness plan. You heard it here first, folks. First Squawk now also tweeting, U.S. Supreme Court blocks President Biden's plan to cancel $430 billion in student loan debt. Okay, this is a market moving thing. Just to let you know. Was there a sweep? Yeah, I would expect the S&P 500 to sell on this. You need to remove that dumb compression? Why? No, I quite like it. I can still see what's going on. In fact, I heard the noise, didn't I? Yeah, I got a noise there. So I could see that they skipped a price. Now on the split side, we're seeing the treasury sell. I don't know if that should really cause treasuries to sell, but well, so the whole thing is that there's a Heroes Act that kind of implicitly gives the Department of Education the ability to make decisions on loans and so forth. And when it was written, I think that it was kind of done so with the thinking that they could, under certain emergency circumstances, cancel certain loans. And the Biden administration was using that to make the case that they can just cancel all student loan debts. And so the big problem was how do you challenge it in the Supreme Court? Who has standing? And the Supreme Court is ruling that the states have the standing to challenge this. And then using that standing, they then ruled that the forgiveness program is unconstitutional. Okay. So that means that the plan was already in September that student loan forbearance would end, right? Now it's, so what happens next? Here's what I bet they're going to do. What I bet they're going to do is they're just going to push forbearance back again. I think that the president is going to try and push the forbearance back again because they shot down his whole thing, right? And then the argument will have to be made that because we're no longer in a pandemic, that you can't keep pushing it back. So I'll probably have to go to court again. Is my guess. I was a little unsure about this one. So the funny thing is, I remember arguing with people on Reddit and saying, well, the states or the Senate almost certainly has the ability to challenge this, right? And all of Reddit was like, no, they don't. Well, so they did. But coming into today, I was a little concerned that they weren't going to do it. And when I saw the first case and they said they didn't have standing, I kind of got a little disappointed, right? Today has been an interesting day, hasn't it? I'm just thinking back and remembering now that, again, the reports from the Wall Street Journal are that the SEC thinks that the Bitcoin ETF filings are inadequate. And I was saying did I not say from the very beginning when that news came out that they rejected the Bitcoin ETFs before. I don't see why they would change their mind now. It's not like the situation has changed at all. Here's the thing, though. You come back and look at Bitcoin. I mean, wasn't this whole thing right here? Wasn't this whole thing based on people buying because of the ETFs? And you're only going to drop that much when it gets rejected? Yeah, well, that's the way that Bitcoin goes. You know what, actually? So because MSTR has bought up in here and everything, then that was probably a significant driver. Yeah, I don't know. Unless he decides to puke, I don't know if it's going to come all the way back. But it could. There could be more bad actions like, it just depends on the order. If they get buried, man, because that was kind of like the way that he was buying in there, that kind of felt like a final YOLO sort of a thing. Any trades today? No, I've been watching the kids, so I didn't take any. I don't think I should have taken any trades today. Okay, by the way, the treasuries seem to have recovered that initial selling. So again, I'm not quite sure why that story would cause the treasuries to sell. I can see why it would cause the equities to sell, but so far the equities have not sold too much. And, as I've been talking here, I think it kind of makes sense once people really game it all out that yes, this story is bearish for equities, but it also isn't, because the president could still try and push forbearance back. We'll see what he says today. Joe Biden's not going to be too happy. And I'm sure that we'll hear from him today, right? He wasn't very happy about affirmative action. But we've got to kind of analyze this and so forth, because these three decisions: the student loan debt, the religious one, and the affirmative action one, are pretty major changes in U.S. law. They're going to have wide-reaching political and social and even economic consequences for decades to come. So will he pretend he is happy? He had to know it was going to be against. I don't know about that one. So there's kind of been these two takes. One is the left very strongly believes that the law and the Constitution, it was on their side, which I really don't see how you can make any reading of the Constitution that says that, but that's what they think, right? And then the other side thinks that, well, because it's conservative justices, is going to go against them. I do still think that the justices try to make decisions in line with the Supreme Court. And I think that on the student loan forgiveness one in particular, it was seeming a little bit close, especially because of the whole standing issue, right? Okay, let's see here. Greenwald pointing out the Supreme Court cites then Democratic Speaker Nancy Pelosi's 2021 view that the president lacks the power to unilaterally cancel debt. As then Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi explained, people think that the President of the United States has the power for debt forgiveness. He does not. He can postpone, he can delay, but he does not have that power. That has to be an act of Congress. Press conference, Office of the Speaker of the House, July 28th, 2021. Yep. I remember that one because the next week, Nancy Pelosi flipped around and said, oh, actually, maybe he does. But at the same time, she's saying they can delay it. That's what they're going to do, right? So right now, the date is set for September. I bet you that they're going to extend it. Reddit. No, that can't be real. I don't know if that's real. I'm not going to read that one. Yeah, he's right. Jack Prosebiak gives you a little bit of a summary here. Under this Supreme Court, Roe v. Wade gone, affirmative action gone, student loan forgiveness gone, constitutional security secured, business religious freedom secure. Say those 4 little words. Thank you, Donald Trump. Yeah. In the end, one of the big arguments when Donald Trump was running was, hey, conservatives, we could possibly get 2 or 3 Supreme Court nominations here, and so we have to win this. And I think that was the right call, politically speaking, for conservatives. Let me just come back over here. Oh, where did they go? Oh, did I put it over here? No, that's not it either. Okay, so let me read some snippets from here. The key snippet on standing, which rests on the MOHELA, as we discussed before opinion started. By law and function, MOHELA is an instrumentality of Missouri. It was created by the state to further a public purpose, is governed by state officials and state appointees, reports to the state, and may be dissolved by the state. The debt forgiveness plan will cut MOHELA's revenues, impairing its efforts to aid Missouri college students. This acknowledged harm to MOHELA in the performance of its public function is necessarily a direct injury to Missouri itself. On the merits of the plan, the Biden administration had relied on the HEROES Act, a post-9/11 law that allows the Secretary of Education to waive or modify any statutory or regulatory provision applicable to the student finance assistance programs, as the Secretary deems necessary in connection with war or other military operation or national emergency. Having found that the states had standing to sue based on MOHELA, the court today said that Biden administration could not rely on the HEROES Act for its student loan forgiveness plan. The authority to modify statutes and regulations allows the secretary to make modest adjustments and additions to existing regulations, not transform them. The modifications by the Department of Education, Roberts continues, created a novel and fundamentally different loan forgiveness program that expanded forgiveness to nearly every borrower in the country. Roberts rejects the Biden administration's contention that the HEROES Act also gives it the power to waive legal provisions, saying that the effort to waive here does not remotely resemble how it has been used on prior occasions. Will you stream? No. Well, I mean, I'll be here on Monday. Monday, but not on Tuesday, of course. The 4th of July, because I got to wake up early and get to the parade. Oh, yeah. Kind of reminds me if maybe I want to go and get a wagon. We could probably, well, I do have some coding that I got to do, but I might do some of that today, because basically I've got some Python files to parse through. Maybe we will do that on Monday, because there's probably not going to be too much trade going on Monday, will there? Oh, there it is. I'm like, what? I know. Roberts also rejects the argument by both the Biden administration and the dissent that this was precisely the kind of program that Congress intended when it enacted the HEROES Act. That is, to give the Secretary of Education the power to address a national emergency that is harming borrowers. The question, Roberts says, is not whether something should be done. It is who has the authority to do it. Let's come back here, see if we can get some more hot reactions from Twitter. Grant Greenwald is all over the place. Some of these journalists really do like tweet too much. Like, I think that these people just sit at their computer or their phone and just do nothing but tweet and read Twitter. Biden student loan defeat adds to headwinds for the U.S. economy. Hannity is presenting it as SCOTUS scorches Biden. Nice try, Joe. Let's go and read one of my favorite subreddits now, reddit.com/r/law. Is it? I think it is a half day on Monday, isn't it? I don't know. I still have work on that day. Normally I would take it off, but I'm not doing so in this instance, so. Okay, so here they are. Here's the thread. If the court is being honest with their analysis, it will be interesting to see how this is used as precedent moving forward. Taken to its logical conclusion, this gives all creditors standing to sue third parties that do anything to harm their debtors. No, that's... I have to think about words here and everything, but that doesn't make sense to me. Because that is a... Yeah, that is a creditor. No, it doesn't anything to harm their debtors. It's just you could potentially sue a third party that does something to affect the particular loan, though. Yeah. You thinking about opening a collective 2 account? Sure. Why? Because my recollection is that all Collective 2 really does is allow you to show your results to people, right? Oh, you can add subs? Yes. You know, you got to be careful about... if you really have a working strategy, you don't really want, depending on the nature of it, you don't necessarily want your edge to get out, right? Like I will, copy trader service. Yeah. I mean, let me put it this way. If you want to go and put it out on Collective 2, that is totally up to you. And I'm not sure I can see a reason why you would or wouldn't, but, I personally don't see myself ever subscribing to such a trade copying service. You know? I really think when you have edge, you got to be a little bit careful about, you know, how you don't want the edge to get destroyed. That doesn't mean that you can't share it with anybody, but you don't necessarily want it to be widespread. with informational edges, that's, you know, you can kind of get away with it because there's just so much of it there. But Biden did his best. It really is kind of funny how people on Reddit, you know, don't speak as though it's a public forum. They speak as though everybody else is liberal too. You should be. So if your edge is a technical statistical edge, you should absolutely be worried about it being arbitraged away by the market. Because number one, if you keep sizing up, you will eventually reach the limit of that edge. If you share it with other people and they size up, then you're definitely going to reach that, right? And, you know, if it's really truly a reliable edge, there's a good chance that the rest of the market will sniff it out on its own. Now, you know, that's why, like, if it's a really sophisticated edge that really only you has the ability to really understand and see and stuff, you know, like the kind of edges that Renaissance Capital has, right? Then you have to be careful about how much you size up so that the market doesn't pick up on it. Like, you have to know how to size your trades. So you really don't want any kind of statistical or technical edge. You know, if somebody tells me a technical or statistical edge, I don't say anything about it. I keep it to myself, right? But so I'm not saying don't tell anybody, but you've got to be really discretionary about that. So it really is, you got to realize markets have such a strong impact. Orders are basically 5 times stronger than we realize. So I would not just dismiss it. You come to that point much faster than you might realize. Well, it cycles. Well, I don't know. That might be a little. Well, we'll see. I got to get going though. So I will see you guys on Monday. We'll be here on Monday. In the meantime, stay excellent, team.